We are officially 1 week out of what will probably be the biggest pro show of the year besides the Olympia and the Arnold. I'm of course talking about the 2023 Texas Pro. Mark my words, this will probably eventually eclipse the New York Pro as the coveted third place spot in terms of prestige when it comes to pro shows. In 2021 we had a pretty okay lineup. In 2022 we had Andrew Jack, Steve Kuklo, Kamal Elgarni, and that's just naming a few. But now in 2023 we have two top 10 Olympians, an insane new pro making his pro debut here, and a lot of other names, not just in open but in other divisions too, like Logan Franklin in Classic and then Keon in 212. This show was growing fast and the New York Pro is kind of just doing the opposite. I'd say the last stellar lineup was in 2021, and considering that this used to be the night of champions, the New York Pro has taken quite the tumble. But anyway, today is about the Texas Pro, yes, but I want to talk about two guys in particular. Those two guys being number 8 and 7 at the Olympia last year, Andrew Jack and Hunter Labrada. These two guys are going head to head at the show and everyone is split as to who can pull it off. Hunter just brought an amazing package to the Tampa Pro last week, his best ever, but Andrew also brought his best package a couple months ago to the 2023 Arnold Classic. So with 1 week left until the show, why don't we do a comparison and get a little preview of how this show might turn out. This is going to be a very divisive comparison. I'm going to come right out and say it. It's because these guys are just so different. Just putting these pictures together showed me a couple of things. One, if a guy wins a pose, he usually wins it by a lot, but both these guys actually won plenty of poses, so I found that very interesting. And I do think that's because of the second thing I noticed, and that is Hunter Labrada is the better bodybuilder, but Andrew Jack has the better physique. I know that may seem like it can't be possible, but these things are not always found in the same physique. Hunter has built more muscle, he is thicker, he is denser, he looks more like a bodybuilder. Andrew is smaller and has less muscle pound for pound, but no one is going to argue that he doesn't have the more aesthetic physique. These guys are the epitome of apples and oranges, and that has them trading off very strongly in a lot of these poses. Now, I am almost done with this intro, but one more thing. You've probably noticed that there was a third guy on the thumbnail, and I didn't mention him yet in this intro. That guy is Carlos Thomas Jr., who will be making his pro debut here. Carlos has not competed in 2 years, so I won't be directly comparing him because that wouldn't be fair at all. 2 years ago, he was literally on the amateur stage, and that may have been 10, 15, maybe even 20 pounds of muscle ago, so we have no idea how he'll be looking here. I can bet that we will be seeing a very good Carlos though, because he did a recent guest posing and that was crazy. But I'm not going to use the guest posing against the other two guys either, so here's what I decided to do. This comparison is about Hunter and Andrew, so I will show them first and give you my thoughts and decide a winner. But after that, I'm going to add Carlos in, and then we'll just do a little bit of speculation. We'll discuss where he may stack up well already, where he might need to improve, and so on. This way we can get a little bit of a preview of everyone. And after all of that intro, we have a lot to get into. This is neck and neck, so let's just jump right into it. If you guys like these types of videos, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more bodybuilding content. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of these poses have a clear winner, and this one is a no-brainer. There are very few people who can compete with Andrew in the front double. You can't really find a flaw with Andrew. His arms are huge, he cuts a tremendous outline, he has a great midsection. Really, this is just Flex Wheeler 2.0, and he had one of the best front doubles of all time. Hunter does have good elements to his physique though. He has huge arms and great legs. Honestly, his legs are pretty slept on for how tremendous they are. However, I do feel the lack of midsection detail is detracting a little bit from the rest of his physique. He did bring the waist down for the show, but against Andrew Jack, anyone that doesn't have a superb midsection is going to get exposed, because as far as I'm concerned right now, he has the best midsection in the game. Even if Hunter had a better midsection though, Andrew's pose is so good it may not even matter anyway, so it's safe to say that this pose easily goes to him. Now, adding Carlos into the mix, I think he could end up taking second in this pose. There's about a 99% chance that Andrew has this pose on lock, so really second is just about the best anyone can do. Carlos also has great arms, but an even better X-frame than Hunter due to Carlos having a tighter midsection. So he has the arms and the silhouette, two things I look for in this pose. Carlos has a great chance to overtake Hunter in the shot because he brings the bodybuilding aspect that Hunter does to the shot, but with better aesthetics. The front lat pose when the Texas Pro comes around will probably be Andrew's pose, if he fixes one thing, the lat imbalance. His right lat is a bit bunched up and not fully deployed, and it takes away from the symmetry, which is the entire reason he will win this pose. This is a structure pose like the front double, and of course Andrew has the structure covered. He has the best lat to waist ratio, the best midsection, all of that. But that's not to say Hunter isn't doing really well in this pose. I think he can arguably win this pose at Texas because of the thickness. He's just more filled out through the arms, legs, shoulders, basically basically everywhere but the chest. Andrew does have some nice thickness there, but the lat taper isn't as good as Andrew's, which is the area you have to weight more heavily for this pose. Andrew's midsection is also better than Hunter's, obviously. Hunter's thicker waist takes a little bit away from his lat taper. So with the stipulation that Andrew fixes the lat imbalance, which I believe he will, I'm going to give him this pose just for the better lat taper and outline. And even with the current imbalance, I think he's doing plenty to at least be right there with Hunter. Now added in Carlos, you can see he's more similar to Hunter than Andrew. Does he have a good X-frame? Yes. But like Hunter, I think beating Andrew in this pose is going to be a bit tricky because he does have that thickness throughout his entire physique, but also a touch of that in the thickness of the waist. I do think he has good lat taper, just not as good as Andrew's. In my opinion, Carlos would have to add some serious size in order to even get second, and on top of that, he's going to need to be as sharp as Hunter. Because the way I see it, he's just basically a weaker version of Hunter in the shot. He needs a lot more size and some more polish. Now in the side chest pose, again we have a clear winner here, but Hunter takes the dub this time. Andrew's aesthetics don't help him in this shot. He's giving up too much size and thickness compared to Hunter. Andrew's pecs and delts are fairly good. They are actually very round with some good amount of detail, but that just can't make up for the lack of size in other areas. The side leg is easily Hunter's. He's drier and more separated, and he has a little bit more size, even though Andrew has a few inches of height on him. And I did say Andrew has good pecs and shoulders, and he does, but Hunter is limiting Andrew's margins in those areas. Hunter has good pecs, at least the one he didn't tear. They're just a bit flatter than Andrew's, but they do take up more surface area on his physique and rib cage. And then also Hunter's delt is okay. It's still big and full, and in this pose I'd give Hunter the arms too. They just look thicker. That's really the entire story though. Hunter is thicker just about everywhere, so I gotta give him the pose against Andrew. Adding Carlos in though, I really do think he can win this entire pose. Really, if he just got 5 to 10% drier, he's already kind of pushing these top guys. Look at the side leg, for example. Freaky hamstring sweep and quad sweep, but imagine it with better conditioning. Same with the pecs. Imagine them sharper, but with a touch more size. And that is probably a winning combination, or at least very close. But for right now, I'd have him maybe in second, even as an amateur. And that's just for having a little more thickness than Andrew, but Andrew is sharper, so I can see an argument for having Carlos in third with his current version. This is certainly a pose to watch Carlos in, though. Now, turning these gentlemen around to the back department is certainly an interesting category. And really, this is the closest pose out of all of them right now. We know Hunter's back is weak, but it was still improved at Tampa, and the added conditioning brought out some more detail in his weaker back areas. However, that lower and mid back is still pretty shallow. Then, taking a look at Andrew's back, you can tell he has the more complete and bigger back, but the lack of detail in his back and really the entire physique from the rear is making me reluctant to reward him this pose. Especially because if you go to the other areas of the physique, Hunter arguably wins them all. The entire lower body is no contest. Hunter's hamstrings are 5 times better than Andrew, who's not even flexing his. And Hunter's glutes are more shredded as well. And for the other upper body elements, Andrew probably takes the shoulders, but Hunter probably takes the arms because of detail, and they just look thicker. So once again, we're back to the actual backs, and here's what I'll say. Andrew needs slightly better conditioning to close the door on this one. Hunter's back is shallow from the bottom of the traps and down. There's a big gap there, a huge lack of detail. So we're looking for that detail in Andrew, but we just can't find much of it. So if Andrew is just 5% better, he can better match Hunter in the lower body. Because Andrew does have nicely filled out legs, he just doesn't have the detail. So Andrew could limit Hunter's margin of victory here and more convincingly put the centerpiece of the pose, the back, in his column. But for right now, I'm going to go with Hunter. And I cannot stress this enough, this is a flip of a coin, and like I said, if Andrew gets any sharper or Hunter somehow gets worse, this can easily be Andrew's pose come time for the Texas Pro. However, just going by the 2 picks displayed in front of you and me right now, I'm going with Hunter by a hair. Now very quickly, let's add in Carlos, and you can see that this is just his weakest area. There's just nothing happening in that back at all, no thickness, no density, no details, and he's pretty smooth from the rear on top of all of that. He fares better in the lower body, he's not as watery there, he's got some decent hams and glutes, but that's about it for good qualities. I do anticipate him coming in third in the shot at the Texas Pro. He said he's made some improvements in the back, but at that recent guest posting, he only hit 1 back shot, and it wasn't even a full back double, and he got out of that shot very quickly, so what does that tell you? I'd love to see him shock all of us with a hell of a lot of improvement, but in order to beat both of these guys, he's going to need just that, a hell of a lot of improvement, and that's something that I think is a little too unlikely. Now in the back lat spread, even though these guys really went back and forth in the back double, this pose is strangely enough no contest. Andrew somehow lost all of his advantages from the rear double and Hunter was able to capitalize. Hunter's back has 10 times the amount of detail here compared to Andrew and is definitely more diced. Again, Hunter solidly wins with the lower body, and due to Hunter's good upper back, he is overtaking Andrew in his one saving grace, the width. So really, I don't think in this pose Andrew wins a single area. And then adding in Carlos, just like last time, you really just don't see anything. Right now, he's placing dead last. He doesn't have the width or the thickness, and like I said earlier, he needs a ton of meat on his back to stand a chance. Even then though, I think the highest he can place is around second, because the amount of improvement he would have to make in order to stand next to Hunter in this pose is a lot. He could maybe be Andrew jacked, he would still need a shit ton more back, but beating Hunter is more than likely out of the cards. Going back to the side for the side tricep pose, this is Hunter's strong area, and spoiler alert, I'm giving him the pose. Andrew isn't really hitting the side tri, he's hitting more of a front tri, but yes, I understand he looks fantastic in this pose. I'm not going to reward this as much as I would in Classic, for example, though, because that is where posing is taken a little more seriously. So Andrew trying to downplay his weaker tricep does hold him back just a little bit in my opinion. That's not to say I do not like this pose, far from it. This could be up there with Sean Roden's side tricep / front tricep pose, and I love Sean Roden. But even if this pose was a 10 out of 10, I'm always going to knock off a point for not being a true side tricep. So it can never be a true 10 out of 10, at least to me. It's kind of like how I don't like vacuums in the open class abs and thighs because it's hiding the abs, but I digress. So yes, Andrew is in fact amazing in this pose, but Hunter does more than enough to overcome Andrew's aesthetics in this pose. We're looking for that thickness in the side from this pose, and like the side chest, this pose is easily Hunter's. The side leg is Hunter's, even though we can't really see Andrew's in this pose. We saw it in the side chest pose, and we just know Hunter's side leg is much better than Andrew's. Hunter's pecs also sport some nice fullness and don't look too flat, but his midsection is a lot more respectable from the side than from the front. And then of course the entire arm, and yes, this includes the tricep, is Hunter's easily. He's bigger, thicker, freakier in the arm and really the entire physique, so he's easily winning the pose. And Andrew better watch out because Carlos can definitely be a threat in this pose to him. Looking at Carlos, again, crazy side leg, needs some more condition everywhere, but he's already bringing better thickness from the side than Andrew. This is a pose where Carlos can easily place second with just a little bit more size and a little bit better conditioning, but he would have to improve a lot in order to step up to Hunter in this shot. So I think he has a good shot at second place, capitalizing on Andrew's leaner frame, but first may just be out of his reach so far. And then for the abs and thighs pose, do I even have to say it? It's Andrew's best pose, and I don't really know of very many competitors at all nowadays that can stand up to him in this pose. He may certainly have the best abs and thighs pose in the world right now, definitely one of the best of all time. So let's go ahead and add Carlos in since we already have a clear winner, and we can see both Hunter and Carlos have good quads. Hunter's are clearly better though. He has some gnarly striations in those things and just a lot more size. But I do fully expect Carlos's legs to be even bigger at the Texas Pro because he's always had them as a strong point. So maybe if Carlos can get really conditioned and dry, he can win the legs department, but that's going to be a massive hill to climb because Hunter's legs are very good. And then the abs department, both guys actually have poor abs. I'll just be upfront with that. Hunter is clearly better though, but this is the main reason he can't beat Andrew. His abs are just a little messy and he has a little bit of lower stomach distension. Credit where it's due though, this was an improved area for Hunter going into the show, but I do think he needs to do a little bit more to get it even flatter. But Carlos is even worse in the abs. He doesn't have the best insertions, which is probably something he can't do a whole lot to fix. Maybe with a little more conditioning, he can bring out some neater and deeper separations, but even with his crazy quads, I don't see him placing ahead of either of these gentlemen in this pose. And finally, for a slightly anticlimactic ending, we have yet another clear win for one of these athletes in this pose, and this time it's Hunter winning the most muscular. This one is very self-explanatory. It's literally called the most muscular, which means we are looking for the thickest, densest, most muscular person, and pound for pound, that's Hunter Labrada. Hunter actually has a very good most muscular pose, not quite Crizzo or Nick Walker levels, but he's definitely getting up there. Andrew, on the other hand, gets a little exposed here. I don't really think any version of the most muscular is a good fit for him. Compared to someone like Hunter, he's always going to look a little frail due to him just not filling out his frame as much as these other guys. What I think is interesting though is when we add Carlos in and he's already got a great most muscular pose. He has that pop, and because he's he's a shorter guy with a lot of mass, he's sporting a very compact look, which really helps him in this pose. Already, I think he's doing enough to at least be right there with Andrew, but even with minor improvements, this pose is an easy second place for him. He'll probably need a little bit more time, mass, and muscle maturity in order to take on Hunter, but he can definitely escape the jaws of defeat in this pose. He arguably is already doing that. Well, here are the results of this comparison. Andrew won 3 mandatories, the front double, the front lat spread, and the abs and thighs. Hunter then of course won the back poses, the side poses, and the most muscular, which brings his winnings to 5 poses. So on paper, Hunter won more mandatories, so I'm going to call this comparison a Hunter win, and I'm going to call the Texas Pro for him, right? No. Hunter won by 1 pose, and we can recall the back double was insanely close, and really half the time I'd be picking Andrew in that pose anyway. Just that alone would narrow it up to a tie game. But more importantly, we know that this is a picture comparison and mandatories are not everything. Andrew on stage is just so commanding with his height and his frame, he can easily overwhelm Hunter and draw the judges' eyes even more. So unfortunately, to end this video, I'm not going to call a winner. This is pretty close. Like I said in the beginning, these guys are just so different, but each guy is so good. Hunter dominated in those poses that require more muscle to excel, like the side poses and the most muscular. And then Andrew excelled in those poses that require more aesthetics to pull off. I really do think this can be anyone's game, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic show. However, I don't want this video to be completely useless, so I want to know your guys' thoughts after watching this video and seeing these photos. Let me know who you are predicting to win the Texas Pro in the comments, and I'll go ahead and leave my personal thoughts down there as well. Currently, based on this poll I put out a couple days ago, it's looking like a little over half of you are favoring Andrew. But maybe this comparison changed your mind, or maybe even solidified your opinion. Whatever you think, leave me a comment. And if you like these types of videos and want to see more, like this video and subscribe for more comparisons and other types of bodybuilding content. That's going to do it for me in this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.